Okay guys, welcome to your last InDesign demo. This InDesign demo is going to be all about finishing up your project in InDesign. So at this point you should have your whole cookbook laid out using all the copy provided. Here is my sample file. If I open the Pages palette, we can click through it real fast. I've got a cover, I've got a divider section spread, I've got the editorial copy, and then I've got my recipes. So I think that looks pretty nice. So let's go through how we're going to finish up this file. Alright, oh, I've thought of one more thing. Let's do real one, would be check spelling. Alright, so there, now we've got 6 things that we're going to go through. We're going to check our spelling. Then we're going to check our Preflight panel for any errors in our document. We're going to pull bleeds. Then we're going to package our file, and I'll explain what that means. After our file is packaged, we're going to go into our images and make sure they are all converted to CMYK, because this is a book, so it would print. And finally, we're going to export some PDFs. Alright, so let's start with checking spelling. I like doing this in normal mode, because you'll see why in a second. Okay, so if you go up here under type, we can do edit spelling, check spelling, or control I believe that is. Alright, so let's check some spelling, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm a terrible speller. So we can search the document. If you had multiple documents open, you could search all the documents. If you had a certain text box selected, you might have options down here that said story or selection. We're going to search the whole document because we think we're done. This is our last go through of this document before we turn it in to me, or to a vendor, to a client, whatever. Your last brush with this thing. Alright, so we're going to hit start. Alright, and as you can see, InDesign is going to jump to the different pages where it's pointing out words that might be misspelled, and it highlights those words. So here the day of Rio de Janeiro is highlighted, so that's not an error. So we'll hit skip. Oh, it did again. So we can do ignore all if we're pretty sure every version of DE is not going to be a typo. I'm just going to hit skip because I don't really know. Okay, so obviously we're going to get a lot of Spanish words, so we're just going to do a lot of skipping at this point. We'll just trust our copywriter. Oh, this is a typo. That should be short ribs, so let's fix that. So if I highlight the word ribs in the suggested corrections, and then it's just very unintuitive, but you have to hit change. Okay, and then you can see it changed on my file. Peeled and halved. Oh, so that's another typo. Look at that. We're going to change that. Okay, that's fine. It's fine, fine. Fine. Empanadas. Skip. Skip. Alright, jumped again. Empanadas, still spelled fine. We'll assume that's the right spelling of that. I like how they suggest Cheerios. Skip. 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 Alright. Nice spell. Oh, so this typeface I used is an only cap typeface. And when I typed it in, I put it all in lowercase. You can see it's showing you what it is actually international with a lowercase I. So their suggested correction is to have a capital I, because usually you cap the first word of every new line of text. So if I hit change, you can see nothing's going to happen. But that's why that was flagged. Okay, and now it's over here in my last little text box, so let's just skip all this. Okay. And you can see now we're done. It got through the whole document. There's nothing else here. We can either hit start, we can hit done. So we just spell checked everything. Done. Good. Alright, so now I'm going to save because I really like saving. I feel like you never know when something's going to crash. Okay, so check checking spelling, done. Next, we're going to talk about our pre-flight panel. So if you go down to the bottom of your window, you see a little gray circle, and it says checking. So it's checking my document. However, if I just, you might have a green dot that says no errors, and you might have a red dot that says errors. So let's go to the pre-flight panel. Okay. So apparently it's checking for errors now. Let's see. Well, yeah, there should be some errors to find. Alright, well, we're going to let that think for a second, and we'll skip to pull bleeds. Okay, so hopefully you set your document up with bleeds, which is that red line on the outside of the trim of your document. Alright, if you didn't, we can add some by going under File, Document Setup, and if yours looks collapsed, make sure you open bleed and slug, and then you're going to pull some bleeds. So 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch. That's your normal bleed amount. Alright, so that's, mine's been pulled. If not, open this, type 0.125, and hit OK. So pulling bleeds means anytime you have artwork, anytime you have ink coverage that goes to the edge of the page, you actually want the ink coverage to go out to the bleed line. So we just use our black arrow and we pull our images and our colors and things out to the bleed. So let's see. So you can see here, I have to pull the bleeds. So you can see this image, it doesn't quite make it to the bleed line because I ran out of picture. So you have a couple choices. You could just stretch or reposition your picture to get it to fit. But if you've painstakingly picked out where this picture is going to go, another easy way to do it is just to copy the picture, edit copy, and then edit paste in place, which is putting a second picture on top of the other picture. So I'm going to just like use my black arrow. I'm making the text box smaller, and then I'm going to move it down. So you can see I have, what I did was I put a picture on top of a picture, see? And I'm just moving it to right a little bit lower than the first picture, and if I move it to the very back, so if I right click and do arrange, send to back, now that little bit of not quite perfect overlap is all the way down in the bleed. The chances of that being shown slim to none. So that is fine, a fine way to pull a bleed. You also could have like just done a black or gray rectangle, something that's similar to this background color. Again, a fine cheater way to pull the bleed. Let's check the rest of our document here. That one's fine, and then I don't think there's any more bleeds. Nope. Okay. So all my bleeds are pulled. So these pages where the pictures are ending at the margin, right? There's nothing to the edge of the page, so no bleeds to pull. All right, let's go back to our checklist. All right, so pre-flight panel. Okay, so my file is done checking now, I guess because I hit save. You can see now I have a red circle that says 2 errors. All right, so let's open this pre-flight panel. I'm just clicking on the down arrow and clicking on open, and you can see it's listing the types of errors. So it's going to look for links, which are pictures, and text, issues with both of those. So let's open these carrots and see what we have here. Alright, so your most common issues that you're going to find are missing links and overset text. So I have one of each of those in my file, so let's go see what the problems are. Alright, let's start with the overset text. Alright, so you can open these carrots and it takes you down to where your problem is. It's a text frame on page 7. So if I click this little 7, it'll jump me to page 7, and then sure enough, angry red square, I'm clearly missing a bit of text in this text box. So this is an easy fix. I'll just make the text box bigger. And you can see I was lost that last line of instruction. So there you go. So I fixed that, and you can see my pre-flight panel. There's no more text error. So perfect. So after that, let's fix this links error. Let's see. This is the image file. It's on page 8. Let's go over here. Oh, sure enough, look, an angry red stop sign. Let's go to the links palette. Yep, angry red stop sign right here. So I'm missing the link. I can either click Relink and search for it, which will be the easiest way to do it. So let's see. I'm going to hover over the path and see where it was. It was in the My Sample folder, which is where I'm saving all my stuff. If I come over here, you can see I'm working in this folder. Here's my InDesign file. Here's a bunch of images that I've created. And I know that I hid the file on you guys. Just do my demo. It's on my desktop. If I can get to it. There it is. So this is the picture that's missing. So if you know that you accidentally started moving stuff around and you know exactly where it is and you want to put it back into the folder with all your other stuff, you could do that. So if I just put this back to the path that InDesign last knew about, and now I come back here, angry red square is gone because the link has been re-established. I'm going to move it back out again. Okay. If you are not exactly sure where it is, or you'd rather go through InDesign to relink it, I'm going to select the picture. I'm going to go up under this link. See, it says relink. Let's click on that. I'm going to get a pop-up window, and then I'm going to navigate to where my picture is, so we know it's on desktop. And actually, InDesign is pretty smart. It looks for the file name. So the same file name is here, so that's why this is automatically selected. Alright, so I'll just hit open. Angry red stop sign is gone. Another thing that sometimes gets you is your picture might be in the same folder, but you might have renamed it, trying to be organized and like clean stuff up. Let's rename the file. Okay, so I've renamed the file. Back in InDesign, I still have my angry red square now. So let's relink it. Alright, so my InDesign is set to pop you to the last place you were. So let me go back, and I'm like, no, InDesign, I know that file is in that folder. It's just I changed the name of the file. So let me click on that name, open, and it relinks it. So it could be for a few different reasons that your images are missing. Hopefully finding them around your computer is not too tedious of a task, that you were kind of organized while you were working, and you're able to find all your pictures. Okay, so now my pre-flight panel has no errors. So you can see I have a happy green dot and no errors. So this is good to go. If you had a bunch of errors, especially things like overset text, before you move on, just look at all your pages one more time to make sure nothing like the text didn't like reflow weird, or things are cut off or crashing into pictures. You know, just give it like a quick once over to make sure things are still looking good. Okay. Where's page 1? Here we go. Alright. We checked spelling. We checked our pre-flight panel. We've pulled bleeds. It's time to package our file. So if you remember the very first demo, I said InDesign is not putting copies of your images into the file. It's just putting links into your file. So it's paths to where these files live, wherever else on your computer. So when we're done working, you can see my folder had stuff in a few different places. I have some stuff in this My Sample folder I created, but I also pulled images from the images library. So I have stuff in a few different spots, and I want everything to be in one contained folder. So I have a copy of every picture I'm using, of the fonts I'm using, and of the InDesign file. So everything is together, and I can take that one folder and share it with a vendor, share it with a client, save it for my portfolio. It's just contained. So that's what packaging the file means. So let's do that. It's very easy. InDesign's going to do it for us. We're going to go up to File. We're going to go up to Package. Right here. So here's running a bit of a Preflight as well. It's checking for a few extra things. So here's your summary. It's telling you that I'm using 5 different fonts. None of them are missing, so that's a good sign. One is protected, which means there's a font licensing issue. Do not worry about that. As long as none of them are missing, you're fine. The links. So it's telling me that I've got 10 different links in this file, and 6 of them are using an RGB, which is why there is this flag on it, because we're going to print this document. We need them to be CMYK. So that's what we're going to do at step 5 from our list. So that's fine. Thank you, InDesign. I will fix that in a second. We've got 4 different colored color swatches that I've produced. That's fine. And really, you just want to check this RGB issue. That's really all we're looking for. But it's giving me a summary of all the fonts I'm using. Here's a summary of all the pictures. And I can actually go in and see what kind of file they are. So these are RGBs. This is a CMYK. If I had a huge document, that would be handy to know. It's telling me the colors I'm using. And that's it. Alright, so we're going to hit Package. Alright, let's save it. Okay, so now this is going to create a new folder with a copy of all of our pictures, all of our fonts, and our InDesign file in it. So I'm going to choose where I want to put that. I'm going to put it in this My Sample folder. That's fine. And we're going to call it My Sample Final. Right? So it's really clear. And then these checkboxes are what do we want to take a copy of and package in this folder that we're creating. So we want to copy the fonts. Yes, please. We want to copy the linked graphics, aka the pictures. Yes, please. We want to update the graphic links in the package. Yes, that is saying that besides just putting a copy of the images into a new folder, into this packaged folder, we're also going to update the InDesign file so that those paths are now directing to the new copy of the new pictures. So everything is self-contained. That's what that is, so definitely yes. We don't need to worry about document hyphenation exceptions. We want to include fonts and links from hidden and non-printing content. You shouldn't have any fonts and links from hidden and non-printing content, so you don't need to check that one on, but you can. That's like I had that picture on the pasteboard. If I want to include that into this package, I would check that on. More than likely, I want to check it off because I don't want those extra pictures and stuff that did not end up putting onto the page into this package file. So we're going to include an Idml file and a PDF. We don't need these two things yet because we still have to convert our pictures to CMYK. Had we already done that, we could definitely do this and we would get a final PDF with this packaged file. But we're going to do our PDF manually. If you were ready to make a PDF, you can select from your PDF exporting options here, which I'll show you when we make a PDF. But we're going to actually check those off. Okay. So I'm copying my fonts, I'm copying my pictures, and I'm updating my InDesign file to redirect to my new copies of pictures. Perfect. Package. Okay. I'm going to close this. Let's go look at what we just created. Okay, so in my sample folder, I now have this My Sample Final. Let's open this. Okay, so this is called a packaged folder, and in here we've got our InDesign file. This links folder is all of the images that we're using. And in the fonts folder are all of the fonts that I'm using. If you're only using fonts that are part of the Adobe fonts, you won't see the fonts in here, which is fine. Adobe doesn't let you download copies of the fonts. It's just linked through your Adobe account, which is not a problem until you go to use this project again and you don't have an Adobe subscription. If that should ever be the case, it most likely won't be the case. But I'm just letting you know, if you don't see fonts in here, it's because you're just using fonts that are part of the fonts.adobe.com. Okay, so next step was convert pictures to CMYK. So we're going to open all these pictures in Photoshop. Make sure your little drop down says Photoshop, or you can go into Photoshop and then click open. See if this doesn't crash my computer while trying to do a video capture and open a bunch of stuff. It might. Oh yeah. Okay, we just crashed my Photoshop, so no worries. We'll just reopen that and try to open this a different way. Alright, so while that's opening, so this is an Illustrator file. I actually don't need to open that one because I made it in Illustrator and I know it's just white, so we can skip that one. Alright, here comes Photoshop. Hopefully we're still recording and this is going fine. Alright, let's just do open. Okay, so I will just navigate to my folder. Okay, so I want the pictures in my sample final. Here's links. Here are all my pictures. Let's try this. All right. Open. Okay, it's working. Okay, so you can see at the top, on this top tab of my image, it's the file name, and then in parentheses it is an RGB image. So I will need to go up under File, or Image, Mode, and then I just want to change it to CMYK. So Image, Mode, CMYK. Say OK, and now it says CMYK. So I just hit Save. OK. Save is Control S or Command S, depending on if you're a Mac or a PC. And I can just close that guy down. This one's RGB, so Image, Mode, CMYK. Save. This one, so you can see this file, I have a bunch of layers here. Because this isn't a copy of my original file, which is still over here. Let's go to it. So in this folder, doughcookbook.psd is right here. So I don't need a second copy of the same Photoshop file with all of these layers that I'm not using. So I can definitely double click background so I can delete it. You can see where I started from, and I can definitely delete that. That will make the image size smaller. Now, you might be like, oh, well, let's just crop this picture too, because there's clearly a lot of white space. If I crop this photo, it will change how it looks in my InDesign file, because InDesign has sized it to assuming this width and height of the image. So that is one mistake that I've made many times, and it screws up your file. So we're not going to change the dimensions of this. Alright, so we're just going to save it. Image mode, CMYK. We can merge our file. That will also make it smaller, so it's just one layer. Since we don't plan on editing this, we can do that. So now you can see it's just one layer. Save that. Alright, so that's a much smaller file size. Let's see, this is my background. Again, I've got something turned off, so we can delete that. You can see how I made this file was the picture I gave you guys. And then I I moved up. I needed more height on the board, so I moved up the top of the picture like that. And then I used the stamp tool and made a little bit more wood. And then I darkened the bottom of it where I have some text. So that is how this file turned out. So let's make this CMYK, and we can flatten this as well. Okay, save. Image mode, CMYK. Save. And then this one actually is already in CMYK. Again, I had a picture. Is what it was. I made the canvas wider, and then I took out this tomato because I wanted to put text there. And you can see I created more background. So we can select all these layers by holding down, clicking layer 3, holding down shift, clicking background layer. And then if I right click, I can do merge layers or flatten image. Either one will accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish. So now it's just one layer again. So we'll hit save, close that. Alright, let's go back into InDesign. I have to reopen this. So let's make sure I'm opening my packaged file, this one. And I actually, I usually go into this one, and I'm going to rename it Final. So I know I'm using the correct file. Okay, so let's open that. This is the one we want. Open. Okay, so you can see, because we went and edited those pictures, InDesign is saying, hey, 9 of your links have been modified. Yes, please update my modified links. Alright, perfect. The Preflight is rechecking. You can see it says checking. It's gray. You can see that this came in all pixely. If you don't like how that looks and you haven't figured out by now, you right click on the image and you do display performance. high quality. There you go. It's just a rendering issue. It's not a, your picture looks fuzzy issue, more than likely. There you go. Alright, so those have been done. Alright, we're up to step 6, export PDFs. Okay, so we could have exported PDFs right from the packaging, which was file, package, but instead we're going to export PDFs with just file, export, right here. Control E. Okay, so I'm in my sample final folder, so I'm in my final folder, which is where I want to put this PDF. It just defaults to the same name as your InDesign file, which is fine with me. And we want to save out a PDF. You can see you have a bunch of choices. In the end, we're going to save out a PDF and an IDML file, but we're going to start with the PDF. So let's hit save. Okay, so you get a few default options in your PDF exporter. And they're all going to generate different sized PDFs for different uses. Your PDF X1A is the type of file that like a magazine would want because it's a high quality PDF, but it's a very still like compressed file. If you're going to send this to a printer, you're going to want to do press quality. If you want to just email it to somebody, you're going to do smallest file size. And if you want like a good quality PDF that's not super high res, high quality print is good. You can also create custom export settings, which is what this one is. This was my preferred export setting, which is the press quality with crops and bleeds. So that goes like to a vendor. That's what I always select. So I made that setting, which you just hit save preset and you name it whatever you want. Alright, so we can do a PDF X1A. That's fine. We want to save this out in spreads because you're turning it into me and I want to see your book in spreads, how we would read it as a real book. We want to export all the pages in spreads, and this is like how it opens in Acrobat. If you wanted to change any of this, for our purposes, we don't need to change anything. I just want to make sure it's in spreads. Okay, and then just hit export. Alright, and then if I go into my file folder, you can see I have a PDF. Whoa. Okay, what's wrong? Failed to export PDF file. Sweet. Alright. Wonder if because I clicked on it. Okay. Let's go to File, Export. If you wanted to save this as a PDF that you were going to send to a print vendor or to print out at school, we could do File. I always do Press, so I know that it's press ready. You can hit Save. And if I choose Press Quality, what's different is the compression. So now it's making sure that all the images are saved to 300 ppi for any images that are over 450 ppi. If you were going to print this out at school, you would definitely want some crop marks. You would definitely want to use your document bleed settings. And that would be fine. We would want spread still. So we'll click that on. Let's see. Export. Alright, so we'll see if that exports. Okay, so the next thing you want to export is an IDML file. So we're going to do File, Export, and instead I'm going to change this back to the name. File name, Final, and I want to choose from the drop-down IDML. An IDML is to an InDesign file what an EPS file is to an Illustrator file. So, right, we're all familiar with the EPS files. They are just a different file than the Illustrator file, but they're still vector. You can still do everything in Illustrator on an EPS file that you could on an Illustrator file. But the benefit of the EPS file is the way it's encoded. It is able to be opened on really any version of Illustrator and on some other software platforms as well. So it's a more, it's able to be used on more applications. The IDML file is, again, it's going to open in InDesign. It's going to work just like your InDesign file. But what it's good for is if you're sending this file to somebody who has a different version of InDesign, specifically an older version of InDesign, they won't be able to open your InDesign file, but they can open an IDML file. And it'll look the same, work the same, but it's just a way to get around the versions of the software. So I always save out an IDML file with my InDesign file just in case I'm sending this to someone and they don't have the same version of InDesign as me. So we just hit save, and there you go. Alright, so that is it. We are done with this file. I can close it. I don't even have to save it because nothing's changed. Go on to my folder. In my sample final, I've got my fonts, I've got my links, got my IDML, my InDesign, and my final press PDF. My other PDF didn't save, but that's fine. You can see this press PDF is how we'd want to print it at school. It has crop marks, it has bleed, the images are over the crop marks, like so. It's in spread, so I can still see it. So you all can turn in, if you want to turn in a press PDF so I can see your crops and bleeds that you pulled them, sweet. If you don't, fine. That looks pretty good. What I want as the bare minimum on Blackboard is a PDF. If you want to show off your awesome skills, make a zip file of this whole folder. So, believe in Macs and on the PC it's the same thing. Right click, and on a PC it's send to compressed. On a Mac it is, I think it just says compress. But either way, however you make a zip file, you can make a zip file of this folder. And this is the zip file that you would keep for future use for like your portfolio, or to send to a vendor, or to send to a client. This is the folder that you would send people. So if you want to upload your zip file to Blackboard, by all means. Otherwise, upload me a PDF, and I look forward to seeing everyone's completed projects. Good luck, great job.